TRAC brings together multiple technologies to create a single ecosystem in which to build, deploy, and use models. For data storage, this could be any of the main cloud platforms, Hadoop, or a local disk. Whichever technology is used, there must be an area to which only TRAC has write access, which we call internal storage. All models executed on TRAC are stored in a repository, with the code being accessed only at runtime. Ideally, this would be a standard version control system, but custom repositories can also be accommodated. Finally, TRAC uses an external execution service. For cloud deployments, this is typically Kubernetes, but you could also use Hadoop or local execution. All deployments create a version of this ecosystem in which TRAC integrates your data and compute infrastructures, code repositories, and development tools, providing the framework for process orchestration, versioning, lineage, and fine-grained permissions. TRAC also has 3 optional integration points. First, the runtime service can be deployed to your development environment, allowing you to build models that translate to production with no code modification. Second, connecting external storage locations for importing and exporting data. Finally, integrating with your SSO mechanism to credentialize and authenticate users. Regardless of which technologies you use, TRAC's approach to model deployment and orchestration remains the same. We call it the virtual deployment method. Central to this is the metadata model. Everything that happens on TRAC is recorded, described, and controlled by metadata. The model is more complex than we will explore here, but we need to become familiar with the most important object types: data, models, flows, and jobs. Data can be imported using a batch process or loaded through the UI. As new records are created, TRAC also creates a new metadata object, which refers to and describes the data. This contains the data schema, information about its physical storage, and a raft of other information which is used for audit and platform control purposes. To make your models available in TRAC, they must be imported from a repository. At this point, the model code is not copied, amended, or moved. Instead, TRAC creates an object called a model schema, which describes the parameters, inputs, and outputs of the model, plus its coordinates in the repository, so the code can be accessed when needed. A flow is a reusable blueprint of a calculation that TRAC can run on demand, where the outputs of one model become the inputs to the next. They're built on the platform using the Flow Builder tool. Each flow describes one possible way that a group of models can be combined into an execution process. We call them virtual deployments because flows exist only as metadata objects and are built from the model schemas, not the underlying model code. To run a calculation, or in TRAC language a job, you first select a flow, then confirm the model versions, data inputs, and parameter values to use. TRAC fetches the code from the repository and the data records from internal storage and runs the calculation via the execution service. 2 new metadata objects are created, one which corresponds to the output data and one which describes the job itself. The job record describes the calculation in full and underpins the TRAC guarantee.